Honorable Men Discord. Comedian Godfrey loses it when a caller makes a comment that he didn't appreciate. Let's talk about it.
How you see yourself is how you perceived. I see a man strong, gifted, head strapping, never down on his knees, begging. Gotta make a way, even in my darkest hour. Say the odds against me was new. I would never cower.
As always, welcome back to another episode. If you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend and tell a friend I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So the video I have beside me, I'm going to go straight into it. And I'm also going to go into some reaction videos as well as the video, the interview actually that Godfrey was a part of that triggered all of this. All right, so it's going to be somewhat of a long episode, but it's going to be an interesting one. So let's get straight to it.
Fuckers all the time. Most celebrities in Hollywood don't say a goddamn thing about y'all. We're gonna do a measure on blackness. I'll probably stomp most of you. You can eat a dick for real. I'm a tether. I'm a this. All these terms, but to just go, I'm disappointed. None of you motherfuckers are my parent. David Oyelowo has apologized, but British black people do not have a perspective of American blacks. Get it? But the fact is that these mistakes need to happen so we can talk about it. So we can have people going, damn, I fucked up. I think David probably didn't mean it that way, but the British black experience is so different than the black American experience. He probably was like, no, it's a little subservient. They don't know any better.
I think people were responding because we appreciate the fact that, you know, although your heritage is Nigerian, listen, I've been through all the arguments with ex-boyfriend, Nigerian, the whole nine. So I understand.
Yeah, but I grew up, first of all, I grew up in Chicago.
We were a little surprised by your reaction.
I don't give a fuck what y'all were thinking, because I didn't make him say that.
I didn't say it.
I didn't make him say that. So fuck all of that. Because you all sit there and try to pick at the smallest shit, waiting for us to fuck up. First of all, me and Akbar grew up in Crenshaw. All right? I grew up in Chicago, some of the blackest cities around. Chicago's the most segregated city in this country. So I know what black Americans are like because I was stopped by cops, harassed by cops, called nigga, the whole nine. Okay, so I'm a little bit different, but that show, what our show is, it's just 9-10 months. We're doing really well. It's needed. Nothing's gonna be perfect. So when someone goes, I didn't like your reaction, you're not my fucking parent, first off. And I'm the first person, if I fuck up, I'll go, man, my bad. But David said it. So to villainize me is bullshit. That's black shit, just trying to have something to bitch about. See, what we're doing is we're trying to work out our kinks. People are traumatized. Black Americans are traumatized. Caribbeans are traumatized. Africans are traumatized. Everybody's traumatized. Black women are traumatized. Black men are traumatized. So this is all coming from trauma. And this should be a therapeutic podcast. Got to talk about these things. But to just go, I'm disappointed. None of you motherfuckers are my parent. None of you. Nobody's perfect talking shit to me. You do a podcast and do better then. But my thing is, I'm doing this for the good of all of us to bridge a gap and all this, oh, you're a tether, you're a this, you can eat a dick. I'm just not talking to you, miss. I'm just saying in the general. But you can eat a dick for real. I'm a tether, I'm a this, all these terms for a bunch of traumatized black folk. It's like, first of all, I'm a very well-read man when it comes to black life. Very well-read. I've done mounds of going to see the minister, a Savior's Day, all kinds of shit. I met Stokely Carmichael. I met Francis Cress Welsing. I met all these people. Did you? I can question a lot of people on that.
Listen, I was in college at the same time. Let me just say real quick.
You know what I mean? If we're gonna do a measure on blackness, I'll probably stomp most of you. It's not sensitivity. It ain't sensitivity. Don't fucking ever say that to me. It's not sensitivity. It's passion. Because I'm on point. I'm not here to make you like, don't try to play good guy like, you're getting sensitive. No, this is passionate shit. And I'm real about it. When people go, oh, you shouldn't have done, fuck all of that.
I know, but what I'm trying to tell you is you switching off, Godfrey. I wasn't.
What'd you say?
Like that. I'm telling you, you've always represented that.
Always, but then you get one little thing and you guys, as much as I speak up for black women, What do you think that does to me in this business when I'm speaking up for you guys? I speak up for you motherfuckers all the time. Most celebrities in Hollywood don't say a goddamn thing about y'all. And I'm always opening my mouth for you guys. I try my best. But I do one thing. You guys just go off. I get it. All right. I speak up for you motherfuckers.
As I clear my throat, I don't have my water with me. I usually have my water. So let me get straight to it. All right. Was Godfrey wrong? If there's a question of was Godfrey wrong with how he addressed the young lady, she was polite. He raised his voice, but he explained that it's because of the passion, because he knows how invested he is when it comes to being a melanated person. And I'm using melanated person because he's Nigerian, and I know there's going to be people that if I say he's black, they're going to be like, yeah, he's not black American. He's not foundational black American. Let me just say this. The reason why in my thumbnail I quoted what he said, you do a podcast and do it better. He's speaking to the naysayers. And unfortunately, that connected with me because I get it. I completely, in the conversation about reparations, completely understand the foundational black Americans' plight when it comes to reparations. I wouldn't be the one to advocate for making sure those from other nations receive reparations, especially not before the foundational black Americans. I've said that on other episodes, and the reason why I'm sort of deviating from just talking about Godfrey is because there's never a common place within the black and brown community where we could just have conversations and understanding and listen more than we speak so we can learn one another. Because the truth of the matter is, here's where Godfrey's frustration resonates with me. All right. Is the fact that no matter where you're from, all right, whether you migrated to the United States, and I can't speak for those that migrated from a different country as far as what their experiences were when they were in that other country. But what I will say is, once you touch American soil as a black and brown person, your experience is going to be pretty much the same as far as navigating through a society that doesn't necessarily see you as the same, doesn't necessarily see you as an equal contributor to whatever field that you're in. That's just a fact. And that's where I could identify with Godfrey's frustration, because I don't know about the separate podcast he's talking about, but he clearly has a podcast in which he had the actor David Oloio. I know I'm probably not pronouncing his last name correctly, but I'll just say David O. He had a podcast where actor David O was speaking on it, and David O made some comments, and some people are reacting to Godfrey as though you didn't check him on what he said. You got to understand, when you have a podcast and you have a guest on, the objective is to allow the guests to say what they want. You want them to be sincere, and you would hope the listener, the viewer, would understand that that's that person's point of view. Where Godfrey may have, and I don't want to say went wrong, is I noticed when the guy was speaking, when the actor was speaking, somebody said facts. And I don't know who said that, because I don't think Godfrey and him was alone in that interview. I think there was another person. Someone said facts, and then Godfrey's reaction after what the actor said, what David said, is what triggered some people in the black community, because they're looking at it like Godfrey condoned what he said. With that being said, what Godfrey just said in this clip, I agree with, because if Godfrey was wrong, if you thought he was wrong, it's still something that deserves a conversation about it. Godfrey, he's explaining that it deserves a conversation, but he's still heated whilst he's saying it. That part is somewhat of a contradiction, because if the whole having a guest on your show is to allow people to speak freely, and however it plays out, whether you like it or not, you should still be able to sit at the table and have a conversation. You have to be able to have a conversation with a clear head. So I understand Godfrey, but at the same time, Godfrey needs to understand that when you say certain things, like what he just said about people should be able to sit down and have these conversations, even if somebody says something that someone doesn't like, you have to be able to say it while you're level head. We have a level head, or level headed. I hope and you can't be upset to it to the point where you're talking loudly and you're triggered, because that's not going to make for a good conversation where there's understanding. Because now the caller feels like, she was trying to clean it up and say, listen, I wasn't coming for you. And when she used the word, she said that don't get sensitive, that triggered him even further. Which I understand, because I don't like when people use the word sensitive. I do understand that Godfrey was being passionate when he was speaking about this. So when you say sensitive, it's almost like not taking his passion seriously. It's almost one of those ways like, stop whining. It's dismissive. That's the word I was looking for. When you say don't be sensitive, it almost comes across as dismissive. So that triggered him. So I understand that also. But again, I understand his frustration, because yes, Godfrey, I've covered Godfrey on this channel since I started. A few episodes, I've covered Godfrey for different topics, or I've used his content within my episodes. And it's because Godfrey, he definitely is an advocate for black people in general, without diversifying the black people that he's advocating for, which I understand that, because for someone like Godfrey, I agree with that whole sentiment, as the sentiment that he mentioned, where you advocate for black people, and it seems like there's a small few, or there's a select few that are looking for any little thing to make it seem as though, oh, see, look at him. He made a mistake. I identify with that, because when I started this channel and I only had 20 to 40 subscribers, I had people jumping in the comments, and it was almost as though like, but then again, that's the reason for the title Discord, Honorable Men Discord. There's the lack of harmony, and I understand that it exists, but I wasn't expecting it. I wasn't expecting for that resistance to exist early on in me just starting the channel. So I understand why Godfrey is saying what he's saying. But again, I say Godfrey, he just needs to understand that even in your frustration, you got to remain level-headed, and you got to be able to have conversations without raising your voice and coming across as like you're upset by someone just expressing something to you. You're going to have to find a way to do that. I know it's easier said than done, but you're going to have to find a way to do that, because that's not going to make for a good conversation. And that was with a black woman. If it was a black man and you raised your voice like that, if he raised his voice back, then where are we going with the conversation? We're not going to move forward. That's the point I'm trying to make. But this next video clip is the actor, okay, David Olohio. And I'm not sure if I pronounced his last name correctly. So forgive me for that. But this is what triggered this whole domino effect of reactions.
Nigerian accent like this, and you slow it down. You put a lot of slavery in there.
Facts.
And then you start to put a little bit of subservience in it. This is what starts to happen to the Nigerian accent.
Man,
It goes this because literally, if you're down here and you start to speed it up, and then you start to take all the thing out of it, then before you know it, you're talking like this.
now we are free again.
Now we are free. We are released. If you take the night.
All right, so people reacted to Godfrey saying, now we are free again. First of all, Godfrey's a comedian. If you haven't seen when he does his podcast, this is who Godfrey is. He's very, animated, and that is just Godfrey. That is not Godfrey necessarily stamping David's point of view. That's just Godfrey being Godfrey. And as far as David saying what he's saying, he clearly, it comes from a place of ignorance, excuse me. He wasn't born here in the United States, so that's clear. But like Godfrey said in the previous video that I just queued up, this is an opportunity for conversation. The problem is that we oftentimes are unable to have conversation whilst remaining level-headed. Emotions start to flare up, and then it becomes a shouting match. Then it starts to become who's better than who, and then a lot of the ills from past upbringing comes to light, because if there was prejudice from where you originated from, that always comes up. You know, the stereotypes. There's stereotypes, as we all know. There's stereotypes within Black and brown communities, from whether or not you were born in Haiti, Africa, Jamaica, Trinidad, DR, Puerto Rico, anywhere where there's brown, Black and brown people. There's been some type of stereotypes about different parts of the world, and then it spills out in situations like this. So I'm not here to say David was right in saying that's the way he is able to portray a Southerner. I just feel as though his ignorance and lack of understanding on how to express it better came out. Does he know better? I don't know whether or not he knows better. Maybe he knows better, but he was ignorant in saying that. And I don't see a problem with people holding him accountable for saying that, but just understand he's not from here. So there's going to be a level of ignorance. So the reactions I'm about to play as far as David is concerned, I completely understand. And I'm going to get into that.
Given what's going on, is anybody surprised when I say that I have never seen Selma? I have never seen Selma because I could never get past that man's accent. His accent was never on par. And whenever I call out the fact that Black British actors and African actors come here doing Black American accents and think they're doing a good job, but really they are not. They're not. That they do not actually take the time to learn the nuances and the difference in our accents. And this man, David, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I'm not going to mispronounce it. The man who played Martin Luther King in Selma proved my point. Came right online and proved my point. Thinking that the Southern accent is just a slowed down, subservient version of the Nigerian accent. What? You throw a little slave on the Nigerian accent, and now you've got a Southern Black American accent. Huh? But when I said that they don't actually be doing a true Black American accent, that man did not sound like a Black man from the South, from Georgia. He did not sound like Martin Luther King. When I said that, people said that I was just starting diaspora wars. People said that I was just being nitpicky and that, given what's going...
I'm going to say this, and it's somewhat in a defense for David, which I'm not saying what he said. Again, his delivery was horrible. His choice of words was horrible. It was horrendous. It was egregious. It was offensive. It's all those things. But what I think he was trying to express, and I'm just giving him the benefit of the doubt. I understand some of you that just watched that video that I just played may not want to give him the benefit of the doubt, and that's fine, and that's fair. I completely understand. As an actor, what I think he was trying to convey was the method in which he goes into that character when he's trying to do a specific character. Now, if I'm wrong in saying that, if he was just talking about how he, the route in which he takes to achieve portraying someone from the South, then it's all the way egregious. But if he's talking about if he was in a role of a slave from the South, how he goes about doing it, because as an actor, he's probably explaining that mind frame he goes into. I think it's called method acting. I'm not an actor, so don't hold me to it, but I think as an actor, actors go deep into a role where they subconsciously become the person. Sometimes you'll hear certain actors say that even when they go home, they take the character with them. They stay in character all throughout filming. Filming sometimes takes months, 6 months or so. And these actors, method actors in particular, that term, they go in deep into the thought process through the readings and whatever they read to make themselves more connected to the role. They go deep into that mentality, and I think that's where he was coming from. He was trying to express, again, he's not an American, so I think he just had a poor choice of words. I'd like to believe, let me say that he had a poor choice of words, and it wasn't intentional. But again, those of you that were offended by what he said, I completely understand it, which is why we're having the discussion. But again, when you have a discussion and we're talking about black and brown people from different parts of the world, just understand we have to find ways to have a discussion without being disrespectful, which is why at the head of my channel, if you're watching it on TV, you're watching it on YouTube, I say respectful. Let's talk about it respectfully, because I know where it can go. I completely understand it. I'm not oblivious to it. I'm sure none of you all watching are oblivious to it. It's a thin line between a lack of understanding and confusion, and just emotions get involved, and then it just turns into a disrespectful argument, which that is not what I think we as a community should resolve misunderstandings or lack of understanding. All right.
Oyelowo said what he said because that is how David Oyelowo thinks. And it breaks my heart a lot because in the past I used to say this. David Oyelowo is one of those actors that's so underrated, but they're so gifted at the same time. He has shown that in the past. And I think that is why some actors need to just stick to their acting and never do interviews. The recklessness of that comment is not only disappointing, but it's sad. Now, the reason why I have a problem with that whole interview, honestly, is the fact that from the start of that interview, it was all performance. He had this accent that I don't know, this overrated, exaggerated Nigerian accent that I don't know where it's coming from. He doesn't speak like that. I don't know, he was just dying to I'm like, he was still intentional in trying to give that Hollywood representation of a Nigerian accent, and that shit icks me. Well, moving on. And then now you're apologizing because you're realizing that you're about to lose the privilege that you've had all this while. The access you've had, the rooms you were able to walk into, the roles you were able to have, and performing them. And I'm not trying to add to the heat, but bro, this makes me understand that all the roles you have played, you didn't have no context. You didn't live, you were so out of touch with it. Yes, you acted it well, but you were not in touch with it. And it's part of the things where people say, why are actors being handed over roles that is not just their lived experience? That's why this conversation is coming up right now. You're adding more gas to the burning fire because you're explaining, you just said why that is. With all the roles you've played, and they ask you, I'm so disappointed that I don't even know how to say what he said. I'm so disappointed. And it's not even about education at this point. It's about the way you see things. If you don't see things this way, even without a book, bro, I'm scared. No. David Oyelowo said what he said because...
All right, I have a question for those of you that are actors. I really would appreciate if actors jump in the comments and explain this to me. So the topic about, and yes, this episode started off with Godfrey, and it's segueing to just all the things, again, the domino effect of that interview that Godfrey had with David O, and then Godfrey's heated reaction. But again, the question I have for the actors is there an issue with British actors playing historical Black American characters, right? That's my first question. Second question is, in the world of acting, you're acting, so isn't it about, and I completely understand if you're a Black American actor and you're losing jobs, if if the issue is you're losing jobs to a foreign actor, I could understand that, because you're looking at it like, it's hard enough trying to get roles here in the States, then it's hard enough competing for roles, I should say, here in the States against other Americans, and then to lose roles to someone who's from another country, it's like you feel like you can't win. Because in all honesty, again, I'm not an actor, but I'm pretty sure an American actor would have a tough time trying to get a role playing a character from another country in that country. It seems like America has an open door for everyone, just come make money, whereas Americans don't have it easy doing the same. So I can understand that. Is that the issue that some actors are having? But when it comes to acting, another question that I have is, isn't it about who just could sell the role the best? Who's the best at portraying the character? Isn't that what really matters? Or do some people just feel as though to play someone, it has to be overly authentic to the character? What I mean, if the role is to play someone from the West Coast, should it only be a West Coast actor filling that role? So on and so forth. So if you're playing Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, but not just leaders of the not just I don't want to say political leaders, but of not just leaders of black people, not just the term's not coming to me right now, but do you have to be from that place to make it valid in terms of acting, for people to actually accept it? Or is it okay that, all right, that person's not from where the original person's from, so that as long as they could portray them good and they're from the States, that makes it fine? Is the issue about being from the States as opposed to not being from the States? Or is the issue about you want to see people as authentic to the role as possible? Is that what the issue is? Or is it just because the people are from another country? That's, I know I was all over the place with it, but is that the real issue when it comes to acting? Because I really don't understand this argument. Because for me, as a viewer of movies, I'm more concerned with whether or not the person is conveying the character correctly and as believable as possible. I don't get caught up in, that person's not from the States, or I don't like that movie. That's not how it works for me. For me personally, I wouldn't care who's playing the role, as long as they're pulling it off correctly, and they're doing a good job of paying homage to the person's life. I think that's what's supposed to matter. But again, I could be wrong in that. I'd like to hear you in the comments. Hopefully that made sense. I know I was rambling a little bit, but that's what I would think people would want to see on the big screen. But let me know. Again, that was for the actors that are out there watching this episode.
The entire diaspora is coming together to drag David Oyelowo, and to that I say, it's my time to shine. Because when it comes to irrational celebrity beefs,
civil rights leaders, that's what I meant to say. Again, I do this off the cuff, as I'm sure other channels do as well. So sometimes I get tongue-tied while I was trying to speak and think of, get my thoughts together. So civil rights leaders. So when people portray civil rights leaders, do you think it's best served by people that are from the places where those particular civil rights actors that are from those regions where the civil rights leaders were from? Does that make it more authentic? Is that what matters? Or is this conversation just merely about you have to be from the States as opposed to not being from the States to really get a grasp? Because you could be from the States, but if a person that you're portraying is from the West Coast and I found a great actor from the East Coast, is there an issue with that now? And I honestly think there probably would be an issue. I feel like at times, and this is where I think Godfrey, going back to Godfrey, he made a point to a degree. It seems that within our community, and I could be wrong on this, but for me, it seems that in our community, we're constantly looking for reasons to bicker. Now, the David O situation, I'm not cleaning it up for him. What he said was completely outrageous. I'm just saying in general, what is there really an issue with who plays the role? Like, if the person, perfect example, if we get a talented actor who's not from the hood, portraying somebody who's from the hood. Is there an issue? And I'd like to hear from those of you watching this episode in the comments, because I think there would be an issue. Some people would say, oh, he wasn't from the hood. He's from so-and-so. He grew up in a good community. He had both parents. He had, and I do believe that, within the black and brown community, we tend to bicker about every small nuance, every small detail. And I'm not saying that there aren't situations where it's necessary, because there are situations where it's necessary. But then there's also other situations where it's like, listen, can we agree on that and move forward? I do believe there's situations where we could just agree on it and move forward rather than, scrutinize everything with a magnifying glass. That's my thoughts today. Let's get to it.
He has been at the top of my list for years, except that my beef is not irrational. It's 100% USDA rational beef, baby. Let's get into it. It's 2016. I'm in the movie theater waiting to see Hidden Figures, which is a whole nother conversation, but we're not going to get into that right now. I'm sitting with a man that I don't even speak to anymore. That'll come up later. We're watching previews. David Oyelowo comes on the screen, portraying an African king who falls in love with a British woman, marries her, and she becomes the queen of an African nation. And they have to deal with all of the trials and tribulations of this white woman being the queen of an African nation. I go, ugh, I'm not gonna see that. The man next to me goes, why? I go, huh? We don't speak anymore. From that moment, I said, something ain't right about this man. David Oyelowo, that is. And then I don't know if I found out in the theater or later, he produced that film. I said, okay. I'm sure he said and done things since then that have bothered me. But then I learned that he was a producer on the Nina Simone biopic starring Zoe Saldana in blackface and a prosthetic nose. And I felt validated because I said, of course he was a producer of that. Of course. Now he's on the internet talking about to do a Southern dialect, you take a Nigerian accent, slow it down, and put subservience and slavery in it. Okay. Some of the other things he talks about in that interview was the whole Drewski skit about British actors taking roles from Black Americans and his feelings on that. And I don't remember exactly what he said, but really it was skirting the real issue of it all. Because what it is, white casting directors see British Black people and they go, oh, they're exotic. Because at the end of the day, African Americans are always at the bottom, even though we literally create the culture that the entire world mimics. But everybody looks down on African Americans. And I'm not trying to start no diaspora wars because I don't believe in that. But I've talked to people who are from Ghana, who are from other countries, and they say, when we come to America, first of all, we're not taught about your history in our country. And we come to America and we are taught to look down on you. So a lot of...
Let me just say something. I didn't mean to pause her video. I wanted for her to continue speaking, but I am not for diaspora wars. All right, let me make that clear. I'm not for diaspora wars. I think it's exhausting. That's when I personally have fatigue. I don't like conversations where diasporas are at war with each other. That is exhausting for me. Completely exhausting. As far as the those that are from other countries not knowing enough about Black history, I want to say, for me, I wasn't taught enough Black history in the school setting. And I said this before in other episodes. I can't speak for others. Let me know in the comments where you were educated. Did you learn a lot about a sufficient amount of Black history? I believe that was probably intentionally. All right, so I think it's safe to say what she's saying about those coming from other countries, other diasporas, not knowing enough about Black history. I think it's safe to say a lot of Black Americans don't know a lot about Black history if we're talking about through the school system. I'm not here to talk about what you've learned on your own. If you did your own studies, I think that's excellent. I applaud that. From a school system, a school setting, unless you went to a historic Black college or something like that, for me, the education on Black history was very, very limited. I mean, it was strictly Martin Luther King. It was Frederick Douglass. You might throw in Rosa Parks and Harriet Tubman. Maybe Harriet Tubman. I don't even think I heard about Harriet Tubman in through the school setting either. It was heavy on the Martin Luther King and heavy on Frederick Douglass. And those are like the top two names. I'll be honest with you. That's for my studies. I don't know if the curriculum changed. And I've been out of school for many years. All right. So I'm not going to act as though I just left school. But the curriculum sucked in the United States, at least on the East Coast. I can't speak for any other region. I can't speak for the West Coast, Midwest, the South. I can't speak for that. In the East Coast, in New York City, where all my education was in New York City, Black history was scarce. All right? Was scarce.
This is a lack of education. But if you're going to portray Martin Luther King, I don't know, I would expect you to do some research and learn something. And one of the biggest arguments that people make is like, oh, well, the Black British actors, they're trained better. There are plenty of Black American trained actors. How do I know? Because I am one. I didn't pay for 4 years of theater school to be told that I'm not trained, that I don't know what I'm doing. And if we really want to talk about it, to do a Southern dialects are different. They're not all the same. A Southern dialect from Virginia is going to be different from a Southern dialect from Arkansas. It's going to be different from a Southern dialect from New Orleans. But you want to talk about put some slavery and subservience in your voice to get the dialect. You not doing the research, my boy. You not really doing what you supposed to do to actually embody the accent. You just doing a general slave accent. Okay. I just think it's funny how some of these, and again, I'm not putting it on everybody because I know it's not everybody, but some of these Black British actors can just look so far down on us, yet you running to America to get these opportunities. You running to play our icons. But you have so much disrespect in the way you talk about us and our culture. And I'm not with it. And again, I'm just glad that everybody else is catching up. The diaspora is coming together to drag this man because he deserves it. And I hope he learns from it. And I hope that other Black Brits or, Black immigrants who have this mentality, I hope you learn from this. I really do. The entire diaspora.
I'm not going to lie. She cooked. I have nothing to say about what she said. She cooked. And I think it should be that way regardless if you're from another diaspora, if you're in the States. If you're going to take on a role, have respect for that person that you're playing and really learn that person's life. Really study that person. Know what it was like. Study not just the person. Study where they were raised. Go visit it if you can. If you really want to, especially like she said, when you're portraying an iconic humanitarian, all right, civil rights activist. When you're playing roles like that, you have to really learn that person, what it was like living where they lived. Don't just look at it as a new contract where you could make some money and potentially be the headline for the movie. That's not, and in the world of artists, whether it's music, whether it's film, TV, etc., I think it's very, very important to really be genuine and authentic about whatever you do. I'm not a fan of when people exploit the craft, whether it be music. I don't like when people exploit the music because they just want to be popular. They just want to make money. Where's the soul in the music? Same thing with acting. If you're just doing acting because you see it as an avenue to make money, you're going into it for the wrong reasons. And trust me, in all categories, in all occupations under the sun, there's going to be some people that are just doing it because they can. They're talented enough to do it, but they don't really love it. And I think that's very destructive for those different occupations. But here we're talking about music. We're talking about movies, and we're talking about David O and what he said. If he receives backlash, which he's receiving backlash, if it continues to pile up, it's well deserved. He's gonna have to publicly, if he hasn't already, he's gonna have to publicly clarify why he chose to say what he said. He's a grown man, so I'm not here to make excuses for him. I gave him, I gave him the benefit of doubt earlier and said what I said. Possibly he was just explaining how he goes into that mental state to play characters, but he has to clean it up on his own. I can't do it for him. All right, and I think he's older than me. If not, he still needs to clarify it because he's old enough to know better. Right.
Who are Black, who are African, who study linguistics, who have talked about just like Africanisms in Black American language, right? But to speak about it as if like he invented this thought, like, you know what I realized when you slow it down. I would have respected more if he talked about it from a space of, well, when I was studying, I did research, I learned about this, I learned about that. It was very much so like, I'm so brilliant of an actor who is also British and Nigerian that I realized how I can do this very subservient, accent. I thought that was really, really disgusting. And it was also just erasure to so many scholars who literally talk about African American vernacular English. But I'm glad we're having these conversations. I'm glad that people are getting their thoughts out. We'll see how this goes.
All right, I'm just going to say this. I want conversations like this to continue respectfully, because I think that's the only way we're going to really get an understanding of people that we think just don't get it. For those, whether they're from another country, another region, for anyone that you come in contact with that you think just doesn't understand where you're coming from, you have to be able to find ways to express yourself and communicate without losing it. All right? And you have to listen. You have to work on listening. To really learn, you have to be able to just listen. It seems cliche. It seems like one of those things that's second nature, but it's not always second nature. Sometimes we get triggered. I myself too, sometimes depending on the topic, I get triggered and you over talk and you get loud. Then you don't learn. Sometimes you have to step back, take a deep breath and just listen. And I think this was necessary. It was necessary so that the conversation is had and we can learn from this. But again, anyone who's an actor that's watching this episode, please let me know, what do you think the viewers are looking for as far as roles? Do you think viewers want the best actor that's the closest authentic version of the person they're portraying? And that also goes for, well, obviously we're talking about when you're portraying someone that actually existed. We're not talking about fictitious characters, because obviously fictitious characters could be portrayed by anyone because they're not real. But when we're talking about when people are acting as a person who once lived or who's still alive, do you think people would prefer that the person acting as the person that they signed up to be, do you want that person to be from that place? Do you want them to be of same nationality? Does those things matter? That's just a question. That's a question that I have. But listen, that's my thoughts on all of this. What's your thoughts? As always, I appreciate everyone for tuning in. If you haven't already, on your way out, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Tell a friend to tell a friend. I drop episodes daily at 5 p.m. Eastern time. And as always, stay honorable.